What is up, everyone? We are here to talk some Dallas Cowboys Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, as every week. And we are talking about the Cowboys coaching staff, which continues to be built. We still don't know what it will look like in the end, but Christian Parker is 1 week into the job. And I think he is cooking based on what we know. So, the idea for today's stream is to talk about some of the coaches the Cowboys are interviewing, the one position coach that they have already hired, and why the names that have popped up in Christian Parker's search, the new Cowboys defensive coordinator, are really getting me excited about what we could get in the Cowboys defense as soon as 2026. Now, with every conversation about the Cowboys defense comes a very significant asterisk, and that is the Cowboys need players, right? I don't care about what Christian Parker does or doesn't do right now, as long as if there are no quality players on the roster by the time the season starts. So I say this because I know these conversations can always get derailed by that kind of comment, people pointing out the fact that, hey, but this Cowboys team does not have a linebacker, it does not have a cornerback. You are right. The Cowboys need to get better at every position other than defensive tackle. So all of this conversation, of course, hinges on the Cowboys getting the players via free agency, via the NFL draft. So we are all on the same page in that sense. With that being said, though, Christian Parker is kind of cooking, man. Here are some of the things that we've learned about Christian Parker and the people that he is talking to. And I'll start with the biggest thing that really gets me excited. I think he's taking a page out of Brian Schottenheimer's playbook when he put his staff together last year as a first-year head coach with the Cowboys. Because what do you see around the NFL every single time when a coach is hired? You see him call up his buddies from previous teams, people he already worked with, and then get him on his new team. That's what Mike McCarthy did when he took over as head coach for the Cowboys back in 2020. He filled his coaching staff with coaches that he knows very well. Now, some people say that is straight up nepotism, and maybe they are right. But I think it's also a big part of it is you have a vision as a coach. You want to execute that vision, and you're going to get people that understand your ideas, that understand what you want to do, and not necessarily people that are going to fight you in terms of scheme, in terms of the way about going about things, that kind of thing, right? Shout out to Brian, who's pointing out in the TikTok comments, he's pointing out Mike McCarthy is doing the same right now with the Steelers, right? And it's very common. You see it pretty much with every head coach. I think John Harbaugh with the Giants is hiring Denard Wilson as his defensive coordinator. He already has a relationship with Denard Wilson. And again, I think you see it across the entire NFL and college football, and really every level of football. Heck, you see this on high school football. So again, it's pretty popular. It's a pretty common way of doing things. But when Schottenheimer took over, what I really liked about Schotty is that he brought Clayton Adams as his offensive coordinator. And Schotty had not worked with Adams before. And you're talking about a head coach that wants to call his plays, and he's bringing in an offensive coordinator that he hasn't really worked with. So I really liked that last year. He also brought a lot of people from the college football ranks, right? So he brought Connor Riley as an offensive line coach. He brought Junior Adams as a wide receiver coach. He was with Oregon before. So there were a lot of quote-unquote random names. And when he described his coaching search, he talked about calling people around the league and keeping tabs with rising coaches across the NFL, across college football, just to get an idea of how he could build what he would call a key-cast staff. Now, say what you want about the offense. The Cowboys had a top 5 scoring offense last year. So, to a point, it worked out. You want to talk about the finer points? Were they inconsistent in the red zone? Were they inconsistent at times in third down? Were they inconsistent getting the ball to George Pickens at times? Sure. But it was a top-tier offense across the NFL. So Schotty did things the right way. Now, you look at Christian Parker. And the guy has interviewed Denzel Martin, who is the outside linebackers coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers and has been with the Steelers since 2016. And who has he developed in that time? He's helped with TJ Watt. He's helped with Nick Hervick, with Alex Highsmith, all of whom are standout pass rushers. That's who Christian Parker is calling for the outside linebacker position. Okay, now Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith was previously with the Arizona Cardinals under Jonathan Gannon. But you dig a little bit and you look at his resume. You know who he was with back when he was coaching at the FCS level in college? Court Signetti. Now, maybe you didn't know who he was before this year, but he is the head coach that led the Indiana Hoosiers to a 16-0 record and the national championship. And he coached with him when he was at Elon and James Madison. So a long time ago, but still, that's the kind of resume that Ryan Smith is working with. Now, he's your Cowboys cornerbacks coach now, by the way. According to multiple reports, he has been hired. So he's not only being interviewed for the job, he has been hired. You look at Ryan Smith's resume at Virginia Tech. He helped develop Caleb Farley, who ended up as a first-round draft pick. He ended up being the reason why Mansour Delane, the first-round target for this 2026 NFL draft, committed to Virginia Tech back in 2021 before he left for LSU. So he is a valued coach, and he's someone that has Gannon and Signetti in his coaching background. There's some John Harbaugh popping up as well in this Cowboys coaching search because the Cowboys are interviewing Zach Orr for the linebackers coach position. Now, Zach Orr was a player for John Harbaugh at the Ravens, and then he was later a linebackers coach, and most recently, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. Actually, the Cowboys interviewed Orr to be their defensive coordinator. So he was one of the 9 candidates the Cowboys looked into for that position. And Parker is talking to him and being like, hey, I would like you on the staff. And, you know, what I think is you're getting some Mike Tomlin DNA in Denzel Martin if they do hire him. You're getting some Harbaugh DNA if you do hire Zach Orr. And you're getting some Curt Signetti DNA as well in Ryan Smith. Now, the only official hire so far is Ryan Smith. We need to wait for the rest of the interviews to see them through. But it sounds to me like Christian Parker is building a kick-ass staff himself on the defensive side of the ball. Now, I'll talk more about this in a little bit, but I should say hi. Welcome, everyone, by the way. We've got people on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok over here. So shout out to you all. TC915, shout out to you, sir. He says, I'm excited. The Cowboys are moving differently these last couple of seasons. I think they are moving in the right direction for once. And I think the biggest reason why this is exciting, as Tommy says here, is you're talking about a coach that seems to be calling the shots. And for a long time, Cowboys fans have been, I don't even want to say speculating because it felt pretty out in the open, have been talking about how this team, there's a front office that is very involved when it comes to hiring coaches. There's a front office that seems to have told Brian Schottenheimer last year, we'll hire you, but we'll bring the defensive coordinator for you. We'll give you Matt Eberflus. Before that, when they hired Mike McCarthy, it seemed like the front office was like, hey, sure, we like you and everything. We like that you're a Super Bowl champion, but we have a guy that calls plays at a very high level, and we want you to keep him, Kellen Moore. Also, a front office that when Mike Nolan didn't pan out, it kind of seemed like the Cowboys were like, okay, we're good. Thank you for firing Mike Nolan. But now we'll give you a defensive coordinator. His name is Dan Quinn, right? Seems like every time it was more or less the same kind of approach. And I can tell you, Jerry didn't know who Clayton Adams is before the Cowboys hired him. Jerry probably didn't know who Christian Parker was before the Cowboys hired him. And it's a shift. It's a different way of doing things. Now, does this mean they're going to do things differently in free agency? Does this mean they're going to have a expedited negotiation with George Pickens. Does this mean they're going to be aggressive and finally go all in? I don't know. I got to see it to believe it. But at least in this specific aspect of team building, I should say staff building, the Cowboys are doing things differently. So Tommy's right about that. Shout out to you, Larry. Thank you for joining the show. We've also got Daniel, Michael, Katharina. Thank you for joining the show. Arturo, Nicolas, thanks so much for joining the show right now. Now, on TikTok, we've got Cyberbob saying, we still need Uncle Jerry to spend in free agency. And that is absolutely correct. The Cowboys need a linebacker or two. They need a cornerback or two. They need a safety or two. They need an edge rusher or two, right? Every position that's not defensive tackle, the Cowboys need. Every single one of them. So, absolutely, I agree. Shout out to John, who says, am I officially a part of the Spotify podcast now? I'm not sure what that means, John, but thank you for joining the stream and talking some Cowboys with us. Always fun to have you guys around. Katharina says, I believe Jerry's pushing in his chips this time, oh. Katharina, I want to believe it. I swear I do. And I know Jerry recently said that the Cowboys were incentivized to bust the budget because of how well Dak Prescott played in 2025. What does that mean for Jerry, though? That would be my question. Does busting the budget mean extending George Pickens? Franchise tagging George Pickens? Does it mean signing many free agents that are all from the bargain discount portion of the store? Or does it mean buying, the front items, the expensive items that are going to make a difference for your team, but that maybe you're going to have to pay a premium for? So are you going to sign someone like Braden Smith, who could be an upgrade at right tackle? Are you going to sign maybe a cornerback like Lante Taylor that you could start? A linebacker like Nakobe Dean, who you could start? Or is it going to be a bunch of former first-round picks that you swear you can fix? We'll see. We will find out, man. But I do think we got to see it to believe it. Because this Cowboys team, there's also a very high chance that we get around to March and then we start listening to the pie analogies. There's not enough pie for everybody. Talking about the salary cap. There's a high chance they hit us with a takes two to tango when they cannot agree to an extension with George Pickens. There's a possibility that Pickens doesn't show up until September because Jerry won't acknowledge the existence of his agent, David Mulligetta. All of these things could happen, right? But we could also see Jerry busting the budget for real this time. We will see. Larry says, do you see the Cowboys trading for a corner if they do not hit on Mansour in the NFL draft? It could be. Yes, it could be. I don't think they're going to make a big move like the Pickens trade, though, because here's why I could see it. You could see the, you could see the kind of, I'm trying to compare this to last year when the Cowboys needed a wide receiver, right? So they went through free agency and they didn't sign a wide receiver because it kind of felt like they thought they could get one at number 12, right? Maybe Ted McMillan, who ended up with the Panthers, so on and so forth. And the Cowboys don't get a wide receiver in the NFL draft. People complain about not getting one in day 3, even though it didn't matter at that point. If you were going to get a starter, you were going to get him in the first round, period. And then they get George Pickens in May. Could we see something similar at cornerback? Like specifically, as you just said, Larry, maybe the Cowboys feel they can get Mansour at 12, no questions asked. Or maybe Colton Hood, who was mocked to Dallas in Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock draft. And maybe they don't get one and then they do something in May. But the thing is, though, you're not going to have a third rounder this year, nor a second rounder. And then next year, you only have that first and second, because the other first that you got for Micah, it was used for the Quinnen Williams trade. So I don't know if Dallas would be comfortable giving a third rounder for 2027. You know what I mean? Which is basically what they did for Pickens. They did a third rounder for the year after. Jason says in the comments on TikTok, free agency is the answer. We cannot wait for draft picks to develop. Dak is getting older. And Jason is exactly right. One of the things that I've said about this offseason is I get that we all love the draft and we love draft season and we love to talk about these draft prospects. But if the Cowboys go all in, we're going to know by March. If the Cowboys, we're going to know what the Cowboys are by March in 2026, regardless of having a couple of first round picks, which will be nice, which will be an important part of the Cowboys. But I agree with Jason. We're going to know if Dallas is going to have a legit defense by March, not by April, by March. Because we need them to do something. Because not only do they have needs on defense, they need better offensive tackles. So it's going to be a pretty big month. Camacho, thank you, man. Thank you. Hello to you, sir. I'm doing great. Hope you are as well. One last comment before we get out of here. Brandon says, Downs and CJ Allen is my dream first round duo. I love that because you would be getting like that safety and then that linebacker kind of addressing the two levels of the defense. There's also something to be said about maybe a cornerback and a safety, right? How about going with Delane and then Dylan Thieneman in the first round? Suddenly changes your secondary, right? But I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun offseason. We're gonna enjoy it together. We're gonna keep seeing each other here every Friday for a few minutes at 11 a.m. And if you want to check out more Cowboys content, check out atcsports.com/Dallas. I have you covered with many articles in there every single day. I just wrote about Thieneman, actually, from Oregon, and how he could be the ultimate chess piece for Christian Parker. If you want to check that out, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the Pro Bowl, I guess. I don't know if you enjoy the Pro Bowl anymore. It's a weird experience for sure. But I'll see you next week and hope that you guys enjoy your week. Bye-bye.